I'm old enough to
We
do
can
that
get
song.
going whenever you like. All right. So this is Chris.
Hey everybody.
I'm
Hello.
Steve. I'm wearing this, and I always thought that I'd be cosplaying Scott Bakula when he's going to be 68 years of age. Except the fact that he's older than me, and he looks like 10 times better than me, so I gave up on that concept a long time ago.
He didn't eat the cheese.
Huh?
He didn't eat cheese.
No, he did not eat cheese. So I think since we're all together, as we have this group so far, let us begin starting with the anthem of Enterprise, and if you'll all join in song, we hope they can hear us all the way at Jupiter Station. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. It's been a long road getting from there to here. It's been a long time, but my time is finally near. I can see my dreams come alive at last. I will touch the sky, and they're not gonna hold me down no more. No, they're not gonna change my mind. 'Cause I've got faith of the heart. I'm going where my heart will take me. I've got faith to believe I can do anything. I've got strength of the soul. And no one's gonna bend or break me. I can reach any star. I've got faith. I got faith.
I've got faith.
Faith of the heart.
The cell's out.
Yep. There we go.
Thank you so much, everybody. You were great. You were great. I can hear them in Jupiter Station right now going, never again.
Yes.
So, again, this is Chris. I'm Steve. This is an audience participation show. It's not about what we liked about Enterprise. It's about what you folks liked about Enterprise. Right, Chris?
Right, but we are going to give our spiel as to why we love Enterprise so much. But yes, we will open it up to the audience to kind of share their thoughts. If you have questions, comments, things you love about Enterprise, we want to hear all about that.
Exactly right. So, Chris, why don't you tell us first, because you're the younger of the two of us, by a few years. Tell us what got you about Enterprise?
So, this is one of those things where it's going to date me a lot. I was in grade 4 when Enterprise came out, and I would watch it every single week with my mom, who, she said she enjoyed it, but I also just feel like she's being a good mom, she's being supportive. And we would have chicken wings and nachos, and sometimes we'd also order Domino's depending on the week. And that was always my Friday. So I loved the show as I was younger. I had some issues with it, and then I kind of fell off of it for a while. But then in the summer of 2013, I rewatched it and watched season 3. And goodness gracious, I can't say much or say enough about how much I love season 3. I thought the character development was great. I liked the concept. It dragged on a bit, but I think if you watch it as a Netflix-like show, and you skip some of the bad episodes, like the cowboy one and maybe the Hatchery. Yeah, we don't like to talk about Hatchery, so I'll actually talk a little bit closer. If you skip those really bad episodes, you get great character development. You get Captain Archer, who goes from happy-go-lucky, let's just explore space, to I got to do what it takes to save Earth, to him in season 4, where it's like, I don't feel so great about what I did, and I've lost who I used to be. I want that. So I like that so much. And I think, again, then we also get to learn about the Andorians. So they're not just the random people who show up from time to time. We actually get to learn about their culture. We get to learn about the Vulcans. And then, of course, we have Trip Tucker, who I just adore. Love Trip. What about you, Steve?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I like to remind everybody repeatedly, and I apologize if you've ever heard this before, but I started watching Star Trek on September the 8th, 1966, when the Salt Monster appeared, and I went like, wow. I've been watching bad science fiction, except for Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits, but bad science fiction, like every week there's Admiral Nelson turning into some type of werewolf. on Voyage of the Bomb of the Sea, or an intelligent carrot talking to the Robinson family as they're lost in space. And then Star Trek appeared, and again, I was 9 years old when it started, and I went, this is intelligent television. So I watched TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, and when Voyager was coming to an end, I went, during the last, even though the last few seasons were fantastic of Voyager, and the interactions between the Doctor and 7 and 9 were just perfect.
They were good.
But I was burnt out. And then I heard that there was going to be a prequel show coming on Enterprise, and I watched the first episode, and I went, wow, this is great stuff. And then I think the episode Breaking the Ice appeared, where they did a broadcast where they were talking to children, had questions from Earth. And it brought me right back to the 60s with us wondering, how do they go to the bathroom in a Gemini spacecraft? Where do they go? Where do they stretch out to sleep in the Apollo capsule? And they would answer those questions from somewhere between Earth and the Moon. And it was just, it made the show, to me, so real. And I think that's the one word I can describe about Enterprise, is that it was real. The equipment all had manufacturers' labels on them. So this was an assembled, this was a built spacecraft by subcontractors that all came together to make the Enterprise. But what really got me, well, you're seeing me wearing it right now, my Enterprise jacket. And this wasn't in the show, but Anovo made it, and it was something you would think that they would have had on the show. And they did have some jackets.
Yeah, they did have
some jackets. But I added on my Apollo 11 patch, because I think that's something Archer would have done. He would have appreciated what the Apollo 11 crew did. But what makes this so real is I took a friend of mine to go see the Endeavour shuttle in Los Angeles. And as I was walking around the artifacts of NASA, I'm wearing the jacket and the hat, and I see a father and a little boy off in the distance. And the dad goes, go, 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 go. So he walks up to me and he looks at me and he goes, are you an astronaut? And I went, no, this is Star Trek. And he went, oh, okay. And he walked away. But this looks real. This looks like something that a NASA astronaut would have worn. And that's what I loved about Enterprise. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know where they were going sometimes. They didn't know what they were going to endeavor. They were truly, for once in all of Star Trek, the only starship in the quadrant that could save the day.
Exactly.
And the characters were so redeeming. And I know that everyone here, and we're going to ask you all, what's your favorite episode? Who's your favorite actor? What about the technical parts do you like? Because we want to hear from you, and we have a microphone right here for you to go ahead and come up and ask us. But often people ask, what's your favorite character in the show? And, I'm torn. I love Trip. I love Archer. I love Phlox. I think Phlox is the best. But really, my favorite character in the entire series?
Porthos.
Porthos. I had a beagle. She passed away in '97. And when this show came on, and they had a beagle on it, I was like, this is great. I know that the cat that Data had was wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's a beagle, come on. Anyway, Chris, what's your favorite character? Or
this is I can't decide, because it's like any given day. Sometimes I'm in the Phlox mood, because I did actually a podcast episode of my show about where I felt like Dr. Phlox for me was like my Aunt Peggy, because my Aunt Peggy was so friendly. She would always host people at her house, and whenever people stopped by, no matter who they were, if she liked them, didn't like them, she always made them feel like you were the best person in the world, and always stopped. And I always felt like that with Phlox, where anytime someone would come into sick bay, he was just so positive, and he made them feel
optimism,
amazing.
Captain.
And then I also really appreciated that. I think Phlox in a lot of ways is the ideal Star Trek character in that he's the one who's willing to try all the weird alien food. He's the one who's like, Captain, he'll sometimes even say, like, you guys always talk about embracing other cultures, but whenever you come to a culture you're not comfortable with, you don't like it or you don't fully embrace it, and I always love that. But then I found out, like, well, then there's Trip, because I just feel like Trip is like one of the most human characters in Trek. Like, he's a character that I feel like you could sit down and have a beer with and not feel like you're totally out of place. So yeah, it ranges all the time.
And yes.
I was gonna say, of course I'm an Enterprise fan. I did bail in season 1 because all the stuff that I wanted to see in Enterprise, which was how did we get to Kirk's Enterprise, and I was really excited about that. And I realized now it was the suits popped up and it's like, why are the Friendly here? Why are the Borg here? This is not next gen. I want something original series or pre-original series. And so I bagged out sometime in season 1. I love the episode with the kids and their questions and Trip, the poop joke. I'm like, yes. I want to ask that question. Yeah. And I did love the Minshara class. So that's what the M is. That's why that's
such a good thing. Like when they said it's like, that's class M. Oh, we got it.
Class M planet. What does M mean? So now we know what it means. Minshara. It's not even an English word or an Earth word. But I came back. I think one of you mentioned it. Was it the Western episode with the aliens?
Yeah, that was
the Western episode.
I came back. I watched that for some ungodly reason, which I know now is God. And I'm like, oh, it found itself. This is fascinating. A colony of humans went out there and got lost because there's no technology to keep up with them. That makes perfect sense. And they've been enslaved by aliens because they have technology that we don't. And so I watched Enterprise from then on, and it just got better and better and better.
That makes sense, and I apologize for the North Star slander. I shall reevaluate.
No, North Star was, you looked at Scott Bakula in that duster.
That's true.
He looked good. and as much as they did, the original Western episode originated in TOS, there they were still in their uniforms and it would look more like a stage set and things like that. Yeah. But that looked like a Western film, and it was.
And I grant you, there is North Star criticism because it doesn't make sense if you think too hard about it.
Right.
You have to kind of cross your eyes to like it.
Yeah.
But the character development and what happened. Why women would go back to wearing long dresses and I don't know, and just let it go, move on. But the story that's in there about what happened, that's what pulled me back to Enterprise and kept me going on. So finding the Vulcans weren't always the
good guys.
Yeah, the good guys. Yeah. They were real, they were not friendly, and I love that evolution was
and
great.
from the very first episode, where Crunch I just want to punch him in the face. Yeah. Don't disparage my father's motor, the Warp 5 engine. Don't do this to us.
This is my father's life's work.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't. Yes, sir.
Oh, I just want to say, my favorite Fox episode, I think, was the one with the two species.
And yeah.
Usually, there's one species that's sentient, like we uplifted the Neanderthals, for example. But the trick in that one, which I loved, was that the lower species, the servant class, was really the ones, evolving upwards.
Right.
And even though, which is a great thing at the end, even though they found a cure for the evolving less species, it was like, do we use this, do we not? And obviously someday there'll be a plan directive that'll tell us what to do.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what
conscientious choice, which was we can't just play God, but we're going to keep one copy just in case. We won't destroy all of the work and all of the effort that we put in. Maybe it'll be useful, and then maybe not, but we can't throw it.
Yes.
And you see how the Prime Directive came about. Oh, because they're asking these questions.
We need that.
There was also another episode, I think, where Archer was in a prison and they lose one of the communicators. They try to
the communicator.
we can't leave this technology behind. And you're like, okay, we should have some like rules that we should follow.
But right now, there's no rules.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the beauties, like you said about Enterprise, is that it did go back to the prior series. You did see the Tholian web. You did see why in the fourth season, Klingons, smooth heads,
I was so
ridged heads, and I thought was, okay, they did that. But one of my all-time favorite episodes is Regeneration, the Borg episode. They don't say it's the Borg.
Right.
They never explain it's the Borg.
Yeah.
But we go from the full circle of first contact. What happened to the sphere? Where did it go? Did it just blow up?
Right.
It left evidence behind. They retrieve the evidence, much like in the film, my favorite, The Thing from the 1950s, where it's frozen, and they thaw them. Well, you don't thaw deadly creatures.
Obviously, they never watched The Thing.
Even though Tripp loves old science fiction films, you think he would have been like, this reminds me of that movie, from the 19th. Anyway, but that's the beauty, So, what other episodes do you guys like? Please, right here, the captain.
I really like I think it's season 1, Terra Nova.
Oh,
yeah,
Because
Terra
I
Nova is
love
interesting.
my favorite type of Star Trek episode is anything that involves like researching the planet, like planetary exploration. As for favorite character, it's Jonathan Archer. Because for me, since Enterprise is like the very, very early days of Starfleet, the captain of the first Warp 5 starship he's not some battle-ready guy like Picard. He's not, Jonathan Archer, for me, seems more like a everyday kind of man. Like the thing I joke about with my friends when we talk about Enterprise, I say he's like the dad of Starfleet, basically.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's very, it's very true because from the very get-go, I mean, we all know who Scott Bakula is, so we know we like this particular actor in person, but he was personified by what they did with his role. I mean, when he goes around and trying to, pick all the members of the crew, why they should be there and who they should be, it's beautiful. It really is. It's very, very well. And he also represents gumption, whereas I'm not going to give up what I think is the right thing to do. I'm going to do what I think is right. And he's tested many times in the series, and it really comes across very well. Anybody else?
Anybody else with...
Share with us.
I was going to say, I like an episode that's a little controversial.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
Acquisition, because I didn't watch Enterprise at first because they didn't have Star Trek, and I thought, you don't want Star Trek,
Don't
then I
put
don't
the
want
eagle
you.
inside a box.
Yeah. But then I was like, Ferengi, huh? So you don't appreciate canon, and then you discover, oh, they never say Ferengi.
Yeah, they never said
No.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so you do appreciate canon, and I just love Ethan Phillips anyway. But
Oh, yeah, he's always
he was good.
he's always fun.
And Clint Howard in it as well. I mean, here's a gentleman who was in the original series, NDS9, and Enterprise, and then
Now Strange New Worlds.
exactly. And it was fun, and you just got to see, it was a mix of goofy and silly.
I like a little levity in my Star
Yeah.
Trek.
That's the
When
thing.
they're not pregnant.
Yes.
I actually really enjoy that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun to go back to.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good stuff.
To me personally, my all-time favorite episode, without a doubt, and I did write a story about it, is Shuttle Pod 1.
Yes.
That was amazing.
We, on our podcast, have been very blessed in that we have interviewed John Billingsley. We've interviewed David Livingston, who directed that particular episode. We interviewed Phyllis Strong, scriptwriter and story editor for the first 2 seasons of Enterprise. We had the wonderful twice to interview Doug Drexler, the man behind the NX-01, and also this husband and wife team called Mike and Denise Okidoki or Okuda. Yeah. And the Okudas on the show. These are the people that made Star Trek. I mean, the Okudas were there from the very beginning. Doug came in, I believe, in DS9.
I think so. That sounds right to me.
We've been really lucky to have, I'd say, some of the most important people that made Enterprise what Enterprise is, and they're all very proud of it. They all looked at this, like even Phyllis Strong, when the scriptwriter, she said, we had nothing to work with. We just knew what's already been there. We're going to fill the backstory. And they did a beautiful, beautiful job with it. But as I said about Shuttle Pod 1, that could have been a play production. That could have been done on a stage.
Have you heard Dom and Connor do the reading?
Yes, the very first episode of Shuttle Pod 1, they did a reading of it. I have the script at home as well, and it's just two guys. And it was a bottle episode that they were just like, oh, we got to save a little bit of money, so let's just cut back on production and just do this simple thing. And it wasn't simple. It was a story about two people, different ideas about how your life is going to come to an end, knowing that no one's going to find you.
Yeah.
Your hair's going to grow after you die. Your nails are going to grow. And what's going to happen? And to me, it's still one of the most beautiful episodes they've ever done, and really in all of Star Trek. Except for Strange New Worlds musical. I love that.
But I will
love
say
that episode. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm sorry, we digress.
But I will say, I am desperate to find out how Dominique was able to pull off that mashed potato trick where he was able to not just use his feet to grab the plate of mashed potatoes for Trip. I'm amazed by that. We need to interview them sometime.
Yes.
I hope.
Yes, whoever taught him all the dance moves to do that kind of thing.
So I just want to say one thing. So we want to keep it positive, but I feel like I need to just if we can all agree that Trip needs to come, or not Trip. Travis needs to come back, and we need more Travis because Travis did not get enough to do on that show.
Yeah,
that's all. And then we can. Pardon?
Shran had more development than
Yeah.
she. You heard Travis.
Yeah.
Right.
The writers heard, oh, you want stories about people of color? Blue?
Yep.
Like, no.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. But yes, I want to definitely we're going to keep it positive for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, did you guys catch the Enterprise reference in the 2009 film?
Oh, with
Porthos, yeah.
Yeah, I was dead. I thought it was great, but I'm also just like, but Porthos can't die. Is he going to be back? Is he going to rematerialize? And according to Steve,
All right, I will.
He did.
I have the CD of the audio book of it, and in the last chapter, the last couple pages, they said, and suddenly in the transporter, a four-legged creature appeared out of nowhere, and it was Porthos's grand puppy that appears. So yes, nothing ever happened. But yes, and that's the thing, and I really appreciate is that Enterprise has been revered in all the other series that has followed it, from the J.J. Abrams episode to Picard to Disco, the very first season. Who are the great captains of Star Trek? And there's Archer, and then the fourth season, the Archer station is done 1,000 years in the future. And in the final season of Picard, they celebrate the 250th anniversary.
I think so, yeah.
And they open up with the intrepid NX-01 crew. It's really great.
Star Trek Beyond had a shout out to Enterprise.
Yeah.
With a captain who had been a Mako and didn't handle the transition to Peacewell. And I'm like,
yes. I was so excited when that came
whatever
out.
happened to them? Because the Makos were built for war.
And then what happened to
warriors
them?
and peace.
Then we had a comment in the back. Yeah.
Spoilers if you haven't seen it. The final episode of Discovery has a shout out to Enterprise.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Are we all clear? Has everybody seen that? Anyone who hasn't? Can we just say it? Daniels is back. Daniels.
It's Daniels.
But wait a minute. Where's the Enterprise J?
I want the J.
It was there at the year 3000. What happened to the J?
He says, Agent Daniels of the USS Enterprise, and my head is going, the NX-01 Enterprise, the NX-01 Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
See, I think all these shout outs, as wonderful as they are, I think they're all because we got so disrespected with the finale. And it's like they're trying to be sorry, like we're so sorry for what we did. Yeah.
All right. Who here watched it and was not disappointed?
finale of Enterprise?
The finale of Discovery? Well,
No, the finale of Enterprise.
These are the voyages.
The only thing I can say about it is if you didn't like it, go read the Enterprise relaunch novels, because that fixes it.
That is.
We have Steve who's pulling
Oh
something
my
out of his
God,
bag. What is he pulled out of his
Shit
bag?
is, you know, I was at the Las Vegas convention, and Brandon Braga was on the stage, and he was taking questions from the audience, and you could line up and do. So I got up there and I asked him, because they were promoting the Cosmos that he was the executive producer on, and I turned to the crowd with my microphone and I said, and for all you people who disliked the last episode of Enterprise, read this book. Read The Good That Men Do.
Yeah.
You will get the ending that you expected.
That we deserve.
That we deserve.
Yeah,
Yes.
the ending that we deserve.
And which would have possibly led into, and I'd like anyone here to express what they would have loved to have seen in seasons 5, season 6, and season 7.
Yes.
If you were on the board of, you were in the writer's room and they said, okay, let's come up with the next few seasons, what would have you liked to have seen?
Yep.
Oh, I wanted to see the development of the Federation because we saw that it wasn't easy.
Yep.
So, you know, not everybody, not all the humans on Earth were on board with this. The Tellarites didn't, you could see they were starting to develop the Tellarites. And so we did Andorians and we did the Vulcans. And all we need left is the Tellarites and the Alpha Centaurans. And so we only got to see them, we saw one Alpha Centauran at that meeting. But so for me, they would, I think a good indicator of where they were going to go was that Romulan ship, where we never saw the Romulans.
Yes.
They stayed within canon.
In the minefield.
But it showed
Yeah,
you that the Romulans were very nervous about the powers of the Alpha Quadrant starting to work together. And it's like, we got to stop this. And we never saw what they looked like. So it stayed in canon. I thought that was amazing. I thought it would have been more of that development.
In the back.
Yeah, well, two things.
If you want to come forward,
Yeah.
please join us.
So two things. One is I have a model of the later Enterprise where it has that lower section.
Yes.
I would
Yes.
like to have not just like bring it on here, we redesigned it, you're done. I'd have liked to see the attempts to redesign it and some trial and error in the engineering of that piece. And the other thing is, his girlfriend who dies in the Romulan War books, not to give that away, I'd like to have seen that happen and have some more emotional response from him as, you know, his lover has just died, something to make that an impact, not just a one-off, oh, look, another ship.
Was this Captain Hernandez you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
because
Like, have more of her
It would have
too.
been good to, like, if you're going to kill off that character in the story, make it mean something. Hello, Strange New Worlds, do that if you're going to kill off the
well, Stranger New Worlds touched in the temporal Cold War in the episode Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And we've got Daniels in the last episode of Discovery. Yes, maybe this is something that will be developed. We had on our podcast one of the executive producers and writers for Strange New Worlds, Davey Perez. And Davey could not disclose with us anything about what season 3 was going to be about. Actually, CBS told us, don't you dare do that. But we're hoping that they will develop maybe that in going forward into seasons 3 and 4 of Strange New Worlds, that they'll tie in that more of that. But, you know, and that's the thing, there was a really great book that came out called Star Trek: The First 150 Years. Have you ever seen it? It's available, and it tells the story of Star Trek from first contact through the death of Kirk. But it reads like a history book.
Yes.
And from reading that book, I said, I've got to know more about the Romulan War. And then I found the Romulan War books and I read those first. And the references are going, wait a minute, what is that? And I didn't realize that there had been this book that preceded it, because Trip's alive. And then also another book in between that called the Kobayashi Maru.
Yes.
which is a great story of character of what Archer had to do. He truly was given the Kobayashi Maru scenario, and he had to choose between saving a freighter and saving his crew. And when he chooses his crew, he's called a coward. And there's a rift between himself and some of the members. If you haven't read it, it's a great read. And it's nice because these books are all chronological. So they do take you forward. So thank goodness that Andy Margolis and Michael Martin decided to write this book, because it gives us a chance to right some wrongs, you know?
I'm just going to comment on the Kobayashi Maru.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
another book called Star Trek, The Kobayashi Maru, which was like 3 of the Enterprise crew members stuck in a shuttle somewhere talking about how they got past their no-win scenario. I personally didn't like the Chris Pine bit in 2009.
Eat me out.
It really gives him something. Not only does he give him something, but it's like he gives him another hero to respect, besides like Rick Lincoln. It gives the story of 2 other crew members, how they got through it, and it really makes sense if you know the story of the Revolutionary War captain who he's who is a hero to Kirk. It makes sense because it is exactly what would have happened if, and what did happen actually, when the enemy ran into this captain.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. Also, you're wearing I appreciate the Boimler cosplay. And we never commented on the fact that they also mentioned in Enterprise when they have to, I don't remember what the material is, but there's some material that was used by the NX-01 that was later
Beryllium.
used.
Was it beryllium?
Beryllium? But I thought that was so cool. It's like, oh yeah, we got to get into the floorboards.
There was like
Yeah.
that element when the NX-01 was made. Well, sorry, when the Enterprise, USS Enterprise was made, part of the ship from the NX-01 was on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, they said in that episode from Strange New Worlds, they said that whatever ship carried the same name, they would carry a piece onto it. And of course, that ended up in the episode of Strange New Worlds with Lower Decks.
Yeah.
And they realized, oh my gosh, we have a piece of it, and
We can use it.
we can use it to get Boiler and
Boimler and Mariner home.
back home again through their version of the transfer, whatever the device was, I forget what it is. But anyway, that's the revelry. And even like, the pilot for the Enterprise, for Ortega, she says, oh yeah, and Mayweather, he was a great pilot, and so
that was cool.
there is, it's funny, there's a comic strip in the LA Times called Canterville, and the guy who writes it is a big Star Trek nerd. And I've saved the one strip he wrote where he said, when Enterprise came out, I didn't like it. And 10 years later, I've rewatched it. I realized that was really a great show. And I think that's what's happened is a lot of people, because again, when I was watching it when it first appeared on TV, there was a lot of hate mail.
Yeah,
Oh,
people were
so
not
much.
impressed with it.
Oh my
yeah.
God,
I
the
think
song.
maybe Star Trek all the
Why do
time.
they have a song?
Yeah.
Open Star Trek.
You don't
with a
even have
song.
Star Trek in the name. What's going on here?
That was a mistake.
It was, but then when people got into it later on, they realized these are great stories.
Yeah.
These are great characters, and it has gone and is developed now a following to where, like I said, we see references to all these newer shows. Yes.
I just gotta say, my season 5 miss, Manny Cotto, rest in peace. He's mentioned that he would have promoted Shran to a principal character, and Jeffrey Combs would have finally got his principal character money.
Yes, that would have been amazing. We need more Combs. We need him.
He is a great actor, and he, again, in all these other prior, he was in DS9, he was in that, and other series.
SVU, which I love way more than I feel like I'm supposed to.
And
Yeah,
that was
I love
it.
what
Yeah.
And that particular episode that introduces him in season 1, where we find out that the Vulcans, they're spies.
They really are doing
They're
this.
spying. They're spying on
spies.
the Andorians. Where's their character? Where's their honor? No.
In a temple.
Yeah.
Right. Which was, you'd think, like, if you're going to do something mysterious and mischievous against your enemy, you're going to do that. And we see that, they're angry little Smurfs. And but then they even through their disagreement with Enterprise and Archer, they bond together. They find that they're the best of enemies, if you want to say, and that's.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's one of the most honorable characters ever. In that Shran is I couldn't why did you help me again? I couldn't sleep because I owed you a favor.
I know.
So I'm that's why I want my sleep. But I love that. So well done.
Because the last Andorian we saw was an assassin. So
He was an assassin, and I don't think there was one Andorian who showed up in the voyage home in the background, but that was it.
So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I do a little plug? If you like
For
Jeffrey
sure.
Combs, they're doing a retrospective on him, which he is attending in King of Prussia, Philadelphia, June 21st and 2nd.
Oh,
He's
that's
really
cool.
proud of it, and so if you can make it to King of Prussia, June 21st or 2nd.
That sounds really good.
It's a 9-movie marathon.
9 movies.
9 movies.
Well, he's been busy.
I guess so. Well, and again, that's the thing. There are certain actors and characters that become ingrained in us, and you look at Bruce Horak in Strange New Worlds, and we ran into him last year here when he was at this convention last year, and I said, "You can come back again in other makeup." They truly said when I spoke to Davey Perez, he said that they loved his character, they loved who he was, and I said, "Did you realize you guys were going to kill off one of the favorite characters?" He said, "I know that," and they knew that, but he can come back as an actor, and they've seen it as another character. So that's the great thing. We hopefully, there's always a chance that they'll bring back the Enterprise crew one way or another to play different roles in, who knows, maybe the next season of Lower Decks. Yes.
Speaking of which, one thing I wanted to add from earlier about the finale.
Yes.
Rather than the finale, I would like to see a separate short trek where Archer is the Federation president, and also bringing back the Enterprise crew in some way, in a short trek rather than a whole new series.
Yeah.
So, question: would this include a speech? Because I need to know what the speech was.
They chickened out.
Yeah, we didn't what was the speech?
Yeah.
What did he say? So I would totally support that.
Yes, when Troy says, "Oh yeah, we all learned that in school."
We all had to memorize it.
Yeah, to memorize it. And they go, "Well, we already heard it. Let's go. Bye bye." No, wait a minute.
So-
We want to hear the speech that inspires this.
I have an audience question, just general opinions on this episode, because I love Amira Darkly, but I know people have issues with it. How do people here feel about Amira Darkly part 1 and 2?
Darkly.
Thumbs up?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I love the opening. Just so
Remember
good.
when he got me?
So
It's the
good.
very moment that's like, oh, what's going on? We're watching the opening of, or the ending of First Contact, and then out comes the shotgun, and chaos happening. Wait a minute. And then
Yeah.
Honest to God, I thought that I had accidentally turned the wrong show.
Yes!
Because I was expecting the monologue, because I was a baby Trekkie when I first started watching Enterprise last year. And yeah, I was expecting, Space, the Final Frontier. I was not expecting, out of all the things I could have expected, I still wasn't expecting that. But it grew on me. I love it now.
In fact, yeah, I can tell because this man has a beautiful uniform on.
Exactly.
But though he's a junior red shirt, so it's been nice knowing you as well.
Yeah. I don't think did people die as much on Enterprise? I felt like people in season 3, but generally speaking, I think they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Have enough.
Well, there's always
that's true.
there's always they say that he had the greatest
There's 80
loss
crew,
ratio
I think.
because it was only a crew of 83.
It was only a crew, exactly.
So with the number that did pass away on the show, I mean, it wasn't where every time they would, land the shuttle and the first person out the door was getting shot or dead. But you did have some interesting, you did have really, in a percentage-wise.
Yeah, percentage-wise, it did well. Although there were times where DePaul was like, just do some scans, and they don't do scans. They go on the planet and then they all get paranoid and start killing each other. It's like, well, if you just listen to DePaul, she was right. Just not saying don't do it. Just take a minute, do some research, maybe do some surveys, and then go up. That's all. Right's over.
No.
Yeah.
I was going to think about the Amira Darkly episode. The opening theme You know,
Yes.
went into all of that military, had the perfect music, had the perfect scenes, you know, to the ending, opening with what I think were real, you know,
There was archival footage.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Footage of real stuff, you know, going into the military, landing on the moon and all that stuff. Perfectly tied together, perfectly what you would expect from a mirror, you know, evil empire.
And it was essentially a bottle of episodes
Yeah.
because it didn't have anything to do with the series. It was you were just seeing what was there.
100% in the, you know, in the mirror universe, no tie-in to the Prime universe at all.
Yeah.
But the only thing was, you know, how the ship got there, which was
Yeah.
actually a perfect sequel and prequel.
Yeah, and they did such an amazing job, and I love watching the episode just because of how good I want to say the Defiant looked, and just how they recreated the sets.
And how Archer is wearing the tunic.
Yeah.
And sitting in the chair just so absolutely defiant. And then Hoshi at the end becomes Empress
Hoshi. I also think one of the other things that's like such a small comment, but I think is so interesting, is that Evil Flock says that, wow, looking at all the literature, everything's different, except Shakespeare. Shakespeare apparently was just as dark in their universe as he is in our universe, or vice versa. But
Well, he has even
so
people
good.
in a high death count, so he was perfect for their.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or even bringing back Brett Spiner to reprise, but his great-great-grandfather,
Yeah.
and doing their augment episodes. So when you talk about bringing in, you know, about there wasn't enough tie-in with the original series, they really did a good
They
job
did a good job, yeah.
of doing that. And those 3 episodes, that 3-story arc, and seeing Brett Spiner having so much fun, being such a bad guy, and at the very end going, you know, artificial intelligence might be the way to go in the future. It's going to take a few generations to figure this out. And it's like, okay, there's your tie-in again, and going all the way to where data came from.
Yeah, so actually building off of that, what were some of your favorite tie-in episodes? Because season 4 did a lot of, hey, let's try and address this issue that's from canon. What were some of your favorites?
My hands down favorite is from that storyline where we figure out where they explain the Klingon difference.
Yes.
S and TNG. That sold the entire series of Enterprise, because we all bought Roddenberry's explanation in '78 that we didn't have the money to do that made perfect sense. And now you can do all this kind of stuff with latex and chains that didn't exist in the 1960s. But the fact that Enterprise took this step to actually come up with an explanation and made it look like human DNA is so much better than Klingon DNA. Snap.
Yeah.
So
And again, that's the influence of, and sad that he's gone, Manny Coto.
yeah.
When Manny Coto stepped on this in the writer's room and wrote Similitude, and you watch that episode, and I mean, really, it brings me to tears when beta version of Trip says, you know, you were a good dad to Phlox, and Phlox says, you were a good son. And, you know, for anyone who's had a family member who's passed away and you wonder, did they make a difference in life? And his beta Trip, what they call him?
Oh, that's the one where I'm like, there's 2 episodes. There's that, and then there's Cogenitor, where I'm like, devastating episodes, and I'm like, I don't always go back to them, so I've not seen.
Yeah.
What's it called? I can't think. What did they call him? What did they call him?
I forgot.
The Trip's clone.
Wait, did he call him?
Was it Sim? I think
Sim,
it might
yes,
be
it's
Sim.
called
Yeah,
Sim.
it was Sim.
Sim.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and when he's like contemplating, like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to steal a shuttlecraft and I'm going to go away. And you're going to die in a few days anyway. You know, what's your purpose in life? And his purpose was to save Trip and to save the mission. And Archer, you know, with him inside the bay, the shuttle bay, with the original model that he had from the very first episode, and he's showing him how to fly it. And Trip's, you know, Sim's character is like, okay, you know. But you see a character develop, and that's really to the point where he expresses his emotion to T'Pol, and that brings T'Pol and Trip together in the future, or in next episodes or so. So Manny Coto really did a great job. And again, tie in with the original series. You couldn't do an episode, you had to do a Nazi episode as they did in TOS, right? So you had your Nazi episode in Enterprise, which was, again, wonderful two-parter.
I actually really enjoy it. I always felt that, like, I don't know how this came about, but I can't think of the actor. He played one in Voyager. He played like the Borg one, but it was like he played a Nazi in Voyager, and then the producers were like, "Hey, you did a really good job as a Nazi. Come back to you played him again. Play a similar character in Stormfront." It always made me laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good episode. It's a little cheesy, but it's so hard for me when I start, because for most Star Trek, I could start a season and not worry about finishing it. But for whatever reason, when I start season 3 of Enterprise, I find myself inevitably getting to season 4, and then okay, now I can stop. But like season 3, so good, so good.
And again, Enterprise came out. It debuted simultaneously with 9/11.
Yeah.
So to show that opening sequence in the final episode from season 2, or I believe it was when the Xindi attacked Florida.
Right, and destroyed Florida.
And destroyed portion of Florida, and it took us right back to 9/11, and I think that was their intention. They made it personal because Trip's sister dies,
Yeah.
and I want to get them,
Yeah.
and that was the underlying whole arc of season 3, which really was, there was a lot of real, as you say, there were a couple of like episodes,
Doozies.
zombie
Oh, yeah, the
Vulcans
zombie
and things like that, but really there was some beautiful episodes like Twilight, where they take him into the future, and Archer doesn't have any short-term memory, and every day T'Pol has to help him out, almost like he has Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for the episode Damage. One, because we actually get to see a Star Trek ship like that's damaged heavily and there's no easy repair. And then of course, I love the fact that Archer has to make the decision to, even though it's tough, he has to decide if he wants to like steal the other ship's warp core.
And
like,
stranded.
and what's so great is someone pointed, I don't know if this was like behind the scenes or just someone I was listening to, but they were saying that ship, it's basically like that's the Star Trek ship because they're just out there to explore.
Yep.
And we're the bad guys who come in and try and take it away. But so great. I'm not sure, we have a few minutes left. Other comments, final comments, questions?
You mentioned Twilight.
Sure.
The planet they were on was.
I was going to say the same thing.
Which one?
So even though like they're the last Earthlings left in the universe, they're still going to die. Eventually the planet's going to blow up, as we found.
Right.
When that made the 3
And it was like
so
not
even more
only are
tragic.
you saving yourself, you're saving everybody, and it's like you can't win.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. I forgot that it was on
When
City
they
Alpha
did that
5.
tie-in, I'm like,
City Alpha
we
5.
can't get a City Alpha 5.
Which I'll say, because I know there's all these different, because a lot of the characters are American, so there's all these, statues popping up everywhere, which is cool. I'm Canadian, we don't have that. Now we have Khan, and I'm like, do I celebrate? I love the character Khan, but he's a mass murderer, and I guess we can't really ask the city of Toronto to put up a statue. But that's just a random side thought. But yeah, any other final comments or questions? Yeah, in the back.
I kind of like the episode with the Romulans when they kind of tied in the whole Romulans and why the other groups of the Andorians and
The Enar.
Oh yeah, the Enar,
they all started to create the Federation at that moment or get an alliance at that moment. I'm a little disappointed that the actual Romulan war never happened after that point. I was hoping that maybe season 5 and 6 or continue kind of like Deep Space Nine where it was the whole thing. So.
Yeah, that's a cool episode, and it's really well done. And again, it's nice to see that evolution, and I love that. Again, this goes back to our buddy Strand. The fact that Archer is I gotta honor Strand's culture here, and he has to go through with this fight. And he figures out how to give everything that Strand needs in that fight without killing him. It's so perfect, and it's just great. It's such a message of Star Trek where it's people that are trying to disrupt the Alliance actually makes it stronger. And it's beautiful, beautiful.
I love
And
when
yeah.
he told them, I was like, why don't you two act a little more human?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts,
Coming-
questions? Yeah.
As much as I love the slick yellow, red, and blue shirts of future Star Trek episodes, I think the boiler suits are probably the most realistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've got zippers
They got zippers.
and pockets.
Pockets!
See, where are you going to put stuff? You have to have pockets and zippers, and you're absolutely right.
Most of these zippers are just zippers, though. There's only like 4 actual pockets on here.
Yeah, it actually worked. Well, there's a nice person who sits across from us who's a seamstress. She has a uniform where all the pockets do work.
Wow.
She made it all herself. It's not a cheap date uniform, but she says it's done exactly to specifications. This one, I bought my jacket from Anovo and I had as well before they went out of business. And I cherish this because it is, I don't have any really other cosplay stuff, but this uniform, it's a uniform. It's something that is, I mean,
Useful. Where did Scotty put his hyperspanner?
No, nobody knows. I mean, he did get
You don't seem to have one, but where did it come from?
he had the vest later, but that was like 30 years into his career. It was like, okay, so at least he's got the vest, but where do you put all that
this is
stuff?
a picture of Scott Kelly in his flight jacket. Does it look familiar?
Exactly.
It looks like this is what real is, and that's what real is. And that's though other uniforms, no question, they're absolutely beautiful. But like you would think that this is something a crew member would wear, and that brings me back to what I first said, the realism of this show.
Yeah.
That's so
Realism
special.
of Enterprise,
That's great.
exactly.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Yes.
I was going to say also another thing about Enterprise that I always kind of wondered about the identity of Chef.
You know what?
Yeah,
We vented a little bit about not Strange New Worlds. These are the Voyagers. To have Riker be Chef and not to see the real Chef ever.
Yeah. Yes.
This is gracious.
Yeah. In the catwalk, you saw his feet and his legs, his delivery food, and that's it. And that was
He's
it.
like Vera on Cheers.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes, you don't. He's there, but he's not there.
And everybody loves his food.
Everybody loves this food. I would love like some short trek or something, just so we get to see who Chef is. I want to know more about Chef.
I know who Chef is. Dorothy Drexler, Doug Drexler's wife. Dorothy is an expert chef, and she cooked all the food that appeared on Enterprise and delivered it, and the staff, so they loved it. And she was the real chef.
Yes. And it was great. Just one last, before we go, just one last thing I'll say, and then we'll get to you. It's the only show where I felt like characters actually got to enjoy their food. They actually got to finish a meal, because every time we see them eating a meal, it's like, oh, we got to go, or there's some crisis.
There's always
But this
more.
one, it's like, oh yeah, we'll actually have dinner, we'll talk with everybody. And I love that. But yeah, gentlemen in the
I was
back.
gonna say I was hoping that Chef was the Q, not the Quinn, the one that died.
Oh, you
Died
mean the,
Voyager?
yeah, from Voyager.
Since he's always in like different timelines and he was always interacting with us.
Yeah, he was.
He would have been a nice person to be in there.
That would have been interesting.
Maybe we would have found that out in season 7.
Yeah, we'll go, yeah, that would actually be kind of cool. Sure.
And and the sad thing is, we are 20, almost 20 years from when it ended. It's very hard to bring it back,
But Scott Bakula is still at, he just finished up NCS New Orleans, looks great, actiony, so much like Archer. So bring it back, why not? Why not have, we need a relaunch of like 20 years after Enterprise, of them in the future. Just somebody get Paramount on the phone, and let's see if we can tell them to do
He
that.
said he was willing to do it actually in one of his some video or something. He was saying that he's welcome to come back if they ask him. So.
I hope they do, because I love him.
well,
One day.
in the book, The First 150 Years of Star Trek, they mention that when the Enterprise, the NC 1701, was launched with Captain April at the helm, he invited only one person to come to the christening of the Enterprise, and it was Jonathan Archer.
Yeah.
And then it says the next day he passed away. So it they tie him into that in the book. It's a great book. I recommend purchasing it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well,
yeah, I think our time is running out, but yeah, thank you guys for coming to this
thank
panel.
you for coming to this. We really appreciate it. I know that there's so much Trek out there to love, and we know that there'll be more Trek out there to love. So we can at least,
But for 4 years
we had Enterprise.
yes, and thank goodness we did have it, because it was different, it was special, and I think we heard that there's supposed to be coming out another thing about Star Trek Academy.
Starfleet Academy.
Yeah,
Starfleet
It's a
Academy.
movie that's taking place before Starfleet, I think. Like a
Which,
prequel.
Well, the
I-
series is in the 30-something.
Yeah, so we have Starfleet Academy, which
And-
is in
and-
32nd, right?
Right,
I
and
think.
the movie is Kirk at the Academy.
Kirk at the Academy.
That's
Okay, I will watch it because I love Star Trek, but I've got thoughts and questions about it. But we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, thanks
Folks,
everyone.
Live long and
Appreciate
prosper.
it.
Thank you for coming. Thank you very much.